Imagine missing out on $1 million opportunity. This just baffles me. Yesterday when we saw that major spike in the S&P 500 with it up almost 8, actually over 8%, you could have turned $1,000 into over $1.4 million with zero DTE calls with the 521 strike. This is disgusting because this is a trade that was made by somebody who obviously had an insider tip as to what was going on, or they just got extremely lucky. Now, what is going on today? We all know about yesterday's news. We know about the markets. That was crazy. It was a wild day in the markets, and we are in wild times as a whole. The NASDAQ 100's decline accelerated to negative 4.3% today as the White House says tariffs on China are at 145%, which is 20 more percent than what everyone thought, right? And we saw the VIX today skyrocket up 53%, back up above 50, which is insane. The fear is at all-time highs. The market is continuing to sell off once again as soon as you come into the new day. And I will say that we didn't get those zero DTE call options because obviously we didn't have the tip as to what was going on. But we did grab puts and ride them into today. And tons of people in the Discord server made lots and lots of money. You can see in the gains tab right here, so much money was to be made. I mean, thousands of percentages of gains over here in the Discord. So if you're not in, get in. Now we're seeing the market sell off. We're seeing gold back up to all-time highs again. We are seeing US 10-year government bonds spiking once again up to 4.36%, as well as, you guessed it, USD, JPY divergence coming down again, down 2.2%, which correlates to GameStop, the Japanese yen carry trade unwind, all that good stuff. And we got a lot of stuff to talk about. All I'm going to ask you to do is like the video, subscribe to the channel, watch until the end. This is going to be a fun one. Let's get into it. Obviously, we have CPI data that came out today. Now you can see it came in at 2.4%. A lot of people are saying this gives the Fed the motive to cut rates in May, early May. I believe the meeting is May 7th, correct? Don't quote me on that, right? I will come out and correct that if it's wrong. But early May, the Fed is going to decide whether they want to hold rates, raise rates, or cut rates. Obviously, most likely they're not going to hike rates. It will crash the market even more. But almost anything that they will do will crash the market. And the reason being is because if people are saying the motive is to now cut rates in May, we would have technically seen the markets take a little bit of a rally today. But instead, we saw them take a little bit of a nosedive, and we'll get into that right now. We saw on the 5-minute time frame, right at open, markets decided to flush all the way down, sub 510, get this bounce, get rejected, and I will give you better levels in a minute. But the reason being is because tariffs are not priced in to the inflation report. This is going to be big overall for the numbers, for the data. And what's happening now is the Fed isn't necessarily, they don't necessarily have 100% accuracy as to what they want to do during this May meeting. The most likely scenario is they are just going to hold. Okay, they're just going to hold rates. And right now, that is bullish. And the reason that is bullish is because, if you can't tell already, the markets, big institutional investors aren't pricing in a cut. If we were pricing in a cut and a dovish Fed, then we would be seeing a rally happen in the markets. But they know that this isn't a reason for Fed Powell to decide to cut rates. Okay, so the most likely scenario is they are going to hold. However, they could technically come out dovish, and that would absolutely skyrocket the markets, likely. Okay, right now, Trump is asking the Supreme Court if he can fire Jerome Powell. I don't know what's going to come to this. Probably unlikely. Still will cause major uncertainty, all that other stuff. But we are still seeing them butt heads. And I don't think that they are necessarily going at it. I think Trump, like I said before, is trying to confuse the markets. Or at least I said it in Discord. I think he's trying to confuse Wall Street and break the markets. And that's exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing the S&P 500, you've never thought you'd see it, right? Up 8.5%, down another 5%. Up 4%, down 6%, right? It's so volatile, and we're getting that volume to come in, just like Roaring Kitty's post, the 420, then the volume. I think that is coming in now. Now, Elizabeth Warren says, I'm calling for an investigation into whether President Trump manipulated the stock market to benefit his Wall Street donors, all while working people and small businesses paid the price. I don't know why she's investigating Trump. Again, I'm not getting political here. Okay. Everyone who is against Trump didn't vote for Trump. I don't care. But I'm just saying that there are better things to investigate. How about all the scumbags that stole money from everyday retail investors back during the AMC and GameStop squeeze? How about Nancy Pelosi's such short salary, but her net worth being so high, right? How about the CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, selling off 250 million of his stock before the market crash? How about Warren Buffett, right? You can go down the list. Anyway, the SPY, let's take you on a larger time frame, 4-hour time frame. Yesterday I said watch 542. If we reject off 542, then that will be bearish. What had happened with the market is that there was so much volume in this candle, and you can see it on the 4-hour time frame, so much volume in this candle that we pushed right at 542 and we pushed a little bit higher. Okay, this was because of how much strength was in the candle that we pushed through a resistance, but it was a fake out, and you can see that right here. And the reason I said watch 542 is because that was the midline of this descending parallel channel that we broke into. Now, what's happening is today we didn't respect it at all. We sold off right outside of this channel, and we didn't get a lower wick here. We did get a higher wick here, meaning we tried to break back into the channel. Sellers decided that they wanted to sell. Now, given, at least as of right now, this candle has to finish, but this is an indecision candle, so maybe tomorrow we get back into the parallel channel and we decide that we want to start trading to the top of it and get that relief rally up to the 560s. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe we have an extremely green Friday on the markets. But what I can tell you is, as of right now, I am still slightly bearish. And the reason being is because you take a little bit of a step further, macro perspective, we see that there are still major uncertainties. One thing over the weekend can push these markets lower because everybody is on the edge. They are sitting in extreme fear. And we're also just not seeing institutions take the level of buying that we should be seeing them take at the levels that we're trading at. Also, the fact that multiple big players sold only for a 20% drawdown, which is decent, it just seems like there's more room for downside. And we are in such uncertain markets. And on the weekly time frame, what we see so far, okay, obviously Friday has to close, but what we see so far is this green body candle with a bounce down here, which is nice. We got a little bit of a lower wick around 482, but we have such a large upper wick on this candle, showing that no matter how hard we tried to push higher, so many people were selling. There was so much selling pressure between 550 and 515. Okay, the SPY decided to not respect any of the levels that it tried to climb to. Moving on, Canada agrees to negotiate new trade deal with the United States. Finally, some little bit of a relief of good news, and we jump into GameStop. Now, what we're seeing with GameStop is not only a relief of good news, but extreme bullishness. Yesterday, it pissed me off a little bit because you saw it. We saw several stocks up 20%, 30%, 25%, whatever, and the whole market up almost 10%, and then GameStop was up about 8%. It's fine. I'm just saying, I figured I'd point that out yesterday. We're seeing tons of calls load up for May for the $31 strike and the $32 strike. Maybe it's Roaring Kitty, maybe it's not. Now, we need to talk about this before I jump into the charts. It appears that ETF Opportunities Trust just filed for a 2x long GME daily target ETF yesterday, April 8th, 2025. What does this mean? Basically, here's the breakdown. They recently filed for a 2x leverage ETF, meaning when GameStop moves, this is 2x. If you guys have never traded leverage or leveraged ETF or leveraged stock, they have leverage SPY, they have leverage everything else. Not everything else, but they do have a lot of leverage things. And what this can do is increase volatility, which is also a coincidence coming into that 420 period, because this is likely to come into effect in May. The introduction of a leverage ETF could lead to heightened trading activity in GameStop shares, potentially increasing the stock's volatility. The launch of such an ETF may indicate strong investor interest and confidence in GameStop's future performance, reflecting positively on market sentiment. And then while ETFs themselves don't directly impact the stock's fundamentals, the amplified trading could influence short-term price movements and liquidity. Now, leverage ETFs are intended for experienced investors with a high risk tolerance, yada, 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 and they are designed for daily objectives and can deviate significantly from the underlying stock's performance over long periods. Given the recent fluctuations in performance of leverage ETFs, as noted in reports about similar funds experiencing significant losses, it's crucial to stay informed about market conditions, yada, yada, yada. In summary, the trust filing for the ETF reflects ongoing interest in Gamestop and offers investors a tool for amplified exposure. Okay, the fact that we're about to get a move on GameStop, this is going to affect short-term volatility, potentially pumping liquidity, pumping volatility into the stock share price, and giving them double exposure just shows that it's not just retail, but institutional investors are prepping for a massive move on GameStop. And what we have seen over the past week, I will say, is beautiful. This is a 4-hour time frame. We broke out of this descending parallel channel. We built a base off of it. We got another wave up, and it looked like we wanted to build a head and shoulders, but we got that another wave up again above $25. We're trading at $24.85. If we close above 25 on Friday, we're watching for a potential gamma ramp building into the next week. What we were also looking for is potentially lows between April 4th and April 11th, April 11th being tomorrow. And it's not looking like we're going to get those lows. Maybe we get a mass sell-off, but I don't expect to break under 21 bucks at this point for GameStop. And what we originally saw was if we got that selling pressure and then the flush into the 11th, we would have been sub 19. But institutions, big players, have bought this up. Retail whales have bought this up. There's been major good news on GameStop, and the strength is here. People want this stock, and I think the buying pressure is higher than ever. And we're coming into a time where we're going to see heightened volume with potential market fluctuations dropping 10%, rising 6%, dropping 11%, rising 20%. Who knows? And like I said, depending on whatever Trump says over the weekend or whatever news comes out, it can move these markets insanely. And we're going to see volatility. That is the main key takeaway. You want to be in the Discord server. I will also say it's a nice weekly candle. It's a beautiful weekly candle, a higher green weekly candle on GameStop. Now, I'm just going to say it full transparent. I didn't look into this too much, but people are talking about on the BBBY docket filed 4-9, which is interesting. You see Keith Gill, name of person filing Keith Gill over in here. So if you've looked into this, let me know in the comments down below. Maybe it's a different Keith Gill people are talking about. Is he going to buy BBBY? I don't really know, but I figured I'd throw that in case, just to get you guys prepped, in case it's talked about more or something's confirmed. If AMC and GameStop do decide to rise higher, a lot of people are saying AMC's dead. This thing's not going to move. Here's what I see. If AMC decides that it wants to have a move, I don't know, but I don't think it will be as large as GameStop. And the only reason I say that is because they're drowning in debt and their business model is a little bit worse, and they don't have the cash on hand like GameStop, and they don't have the transformation like GameStop. But what I can tell you is the first price target, if we play out a very similar sneeze to last time, quote unquote, we will hit $25.30. That's the first price target. Okay, the next one is $88.33. And some people who don't own AMC might be saying, well, that's not going to happen. That's fine. Again, this is just my personal opinion. These are my price targets that I think will get hit before AMC decides that, hey, maybe algorithms will break and we squeeze higher, or it will come down. No matter the fundamentals of the company, what I do know, in my personal opinion, nothing I say in these videos is financial advice because I can't give it. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy on YouTube. What I do think, in my personal opinion, is that even if AMC has bad fundamentals, this thing's float is shorted time and time over. And a lot of retail, I think, bought up this float time and time over. Maybe even more than GameStop, if not close, because of how cheap it has been. Moving on, keep an eye on all of these stocks. BYND, Cassava Sciences, the other short squeeze plays, right? Because they move very similarly to AMC and GameStop and Carvana, right? We saw yesterday Carvana was up about 23%, but GameStop was only up 8. The reason I say keep your eye on all these is because if they're trying to keep some down for a short period, the others might move sooner, and you can play those, pumping money back into GameStop, so on and so on and so on. Now, Paul Atkins was officially just confirmed as a new SEC chair. I don't know if this is completely good, but he is pro crypto. He's pro Bitcoin at least. And GameStop's whole business model is now transforming into Bitcoin. As far as price predictions goes, I gave you this drawdown, the bounce, and then more drawdown before a rip higher. And what's happening with Bitcoin is I don't think the rip higher is out of the woods just yet. I'll say that right now. I don't think the rip higher is out of the woods just yet. We are getting another leg up. Maybe the SPY gets a bounce here with Bitcoin and we start moving higher, or maybe we flush down to get one more lower low and everyone panics. I can't tell you what's going to happen because anything can happen over the weekend. Nvidia is playing the same thing. Markets are playing the same thing. As of right now, across the board, this is just some sort of dead cat bounce. It's a relief bounce, okay? Overall, guys, that is what I got for you for today's video. Don't forget, if you want to trade a live account where you can take profits out, use my code LOTTO at checkout for the futures trading platform. Join my Discord server. It's the top link in the description where we talk stocks and crypto all day long. I post my trades as soon as I take them. We post our gains in there and our losses, and there are no bad questions. So whether you're a beginner or advanced trader, this is the place to go. Best vibes, best people. Go get free stocks if you don't have them already, and go use the #1 fundamental analysis tool down in the description down below. And that is it, guys. I love you all. God bless. Lottery Stocks out.